Tony D and Little Joan in the background, and this is a screenwriter's rant on three movies that look like art house movies, kind of pretentious. One is called Peter Hujar's Day, about a photographer and a woman interviewing him. Looks like in the 70s. Next is something called Plainclothes. I can't tell if it's a cop thriller or about a guy discovering he's gay or both. And then this one is called Everything to Me, about a girl who grows up in the shadow of Steve Jobs' Silicon Valley. Not her, but her friend, and it's supposed to be a comedy drama. Anyhow, smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Check out my books. The links are in the description. Comedy Heart in South Jersey. It's the Pineys. Books 1 through 18. Available at Amazon.com. Don't forget, Kindle Unlimited is free. Yeah, so spoilers. I'm probably not going to like any of these movies. I already watched the trailers. So this one, they used to make movies like this back in the 70s. It sort of harkens back to that. It's just about some photographer who photographed Ginsburg. And he's talking about his work, and the girl is trying to analyze him, but maybe they have some kind of relationship. I don't know. There's a lot of like critics saying, "Oh, you got to see this. It's amazing." I mean, that's kind of in every movie, but this, like, that's kind of what they're hanging their hat on. So Rolling Stone likes it. I don't really trust their reviews anymore. IndieWire, yeah, maybe. I don't know. A vision of the ordinary that holds us because it contains a hidden glimmer of paradise. I don't know what the movie's about other than she interviews him, and then I don't know, maybe they start a relationship. A masterpiece, the best film at Sundance. New York Magazine. I mean, maybe it is. It's kind of hard to tell from this trailer. So, I take a stab at it. First act, she interviews him, finds him fascinating. Second act, they start some kind of relationship as she's drilling down. Maybe they do it. I'm not sure. Didn't seem like they had the body language that they become a couple, but they're kind of like hanging on each other, so maybe. And then they kind of go their separate ways, and there's a bunch of ennui. I don't know. It looks boring. That's my main takeaway. Based on a book called Peter Hujar's Day, Linda Rosenkrantz, written for the screen by Ira Sachs, and directed by who? Looking for the director on this. Based on the book, written for the screen and directed by Ira Sachs. Okay, so he did both. I guess this is just a guy he was fascinated with, and I mean, I'll tell you, the look is very 70s. Between the clothes, the set, and just the look of the film, but I don't know who this guy is, so. Ben Whishaw brilliantly conjures a long-lost artist. Okay. I don't know who he is, though, so I mean, he could be doing some crazy accent. As far as I know, that's correct. I don't know. It just kind of looks dull. Let's read the write-up. Maybe it'll sell me. Ira Sachs' new film, Peter Hujar's Day, stars Ben Whishaw and Rebecca Hall in a richly cinematic rendering of a conversation recorded in 1974 between photographer Peter Hujar and writer Linda Rosenkrantz. Their talk that day focused on a single 24 hours in the life of Hujar, the brilliant and famously uncompromising artist who was one of the most important figures in downtown New York's legendary cultural scene of the 70s and 80s. Set entirely in Linda's Manhattan apartment, the film fiercely and imaginatively recreates that long ago afternoon and the wonderfully discursive exchange between these two singular individuals. As the photographer vividly describes interaction with leading cultural figures of the day, including Allen Ginsberg and Susan Sontag, as well as the challenges of living on limited financial resources in 70s New York, Peter Hujar's day transforms unexpectedly into a Bloomsday-like rumination on both an artist's life and time itself. I think you're overselling it. I mean, it is kind of interesting to take a glimpse into that time at New York, but I don't know. It feels like, wouldn't that be more suited to a documentary? It's kind of neat that they recreated this conversation. Obviously, they had it on tape, so the actors are recreating it and what was going on in the room, but ultimately it was just a conversation. Kind of feeling like not enough's going on in this movie for me to not fall asleep in the middle of it. So, yeah. I guess if you're an art nut and you love 70s New York, some people do. Some people love it. I mean, if you watch, I'll tell you who loved it. The creators of the Venture Brothers. Oh, yeah, he loved the 70s New York. He did a whole thing on that in the cartoon. Yeah, I don't know if I could sit through this. All right, next up is Plainclothes. This is a really confusing trailer for me because it looks like it takes place at first in a mall, and I think he's a plainclothes detective trying to arrest guys who are having sex. Yeah, I guess he's a cop. He's trying to arrest guys trying to have sex in public bathrooms. So he arrests the dude, and then, I don't know, he's gay and he falls for one of them, lets him go, but then calls him back later, and then they have a thing. I guess it takes place in the 80s because there's a payphone. But again, a lot of this. Tom Blythe mesmerizes an extremely tense thriller of emotion. Doesn't seem like a thriller. I guess he's in love? I don't know. So it's about closeted gay guys, smoldering chemistry. Not seeing it, but I guess I'll take your word for it. So he is arresting gay dudes and then falls in love with a gay dude. Then becomes a gay dude. I guess. Written and directed by Carmen Emmy. No idea what this is. Alright, so first act. Guess he's arresting dudes. And arrests the dude. But like he's the bait, right? He's the bait for the gay dudes. And then, so this is the guy I think he arrests. So he has, it kind of messes up his life maybe. Meanwhile, he doesn't arrest this dude and then decides he's going to call him back later. And then they have a thing in the second act. Decides he's gay, I guess. I can't take it anymore. I'm going to have to be gay. I don't know. So he doesn't really come out, so they're on the down low, as the kids say. But he doesn't want to be, but it's in the 80s. Oh yeah, you know what they did to gay people in the 80s? Nothing. Nothing, we did nothing. Just like, oh, there's gay dudes over there. Probably shouldn't be having sex in a public bathroom. I don't know. Riveting, paranoid thriller. I mean, yeah, I guess they would have the cop probably would have more reason to be paranoid. Doesn't want to be called out as gay, I guess. I don't know if I want, this world doesn't interest me, though. That's part of the problem. Like, I don't want to, guys meeting in public bathrooms. Like, is that something you want to see? Not me. Now, maybe there are people who relate to that, but I can't imagine it's a giant population of people. But September 19th, first act, he arrests that dude, goes back to arrest more dudes, falls in love with this dude. Second act, lets him go. Second act, decides to hook up with him, falls in love, and then third act is the fallout. So reading a write up, Syracuse 1997. Oh, come on. Promising undercover police officer Lucas is dealing with a breakup and a recent loss of his father when he receives an assignment to lure and arrest gay men in a mall bathroom. He is surprised to discover a scintillating connection with Andrew, one of his targets, as their secret connection deepens and internal pressure to deliver arrests intensifies. Lucas finds himself torn between duty and desire. At his mother's New Year's Eve party, Lucas loses a letter no one was ever meant to read. With time running out and his secret life closing in around him, the evening builds towards an explosive reckoning where everything he's buried threatens to erupt. I guess. Yeah, I don't... Yeah, not really seeing it. Like, I just don't see... In 1997? Like, yeah, there was a little bit of pushback, but by 97, man... All right, so not my thing. I don't want to say this. It's drama. Doesn't really feel like a thriller. Again, feels kind of boring. Next up is the Everything to Me. I almost called it the Book of Jobs or Jobs. About a little girl. Well, first she's a little girl, and she is obsessed with being part of Silicon Valley because she grows up in Silicon Valley. So I guess this takes place in the 90s too. And she's a bit obsessed with Steve Jobs and her life and her career. She's one of those overachiever types. And but eventually find, her and a best friend have I think a falling out because her best friend wants a life and she just wants a career. And then she eventually, Judy Greer is the mom. Love Judy Greer, although I wish she would be in a comedy again. So I think she falls in love at prom, and then it changes her life, so she doesn't pursue. There's a lot of flashback to her in middle school, and then I think she doesn't pursue her career, and then I don't know, later she writes a book about it. Written and directed and produced by Casey LeCobe. Now again, it's comedy drama. I don't think that works 90% of the time. 99.9% of the time. The comedy undermines the drama undermines the comedy. But I'll take a stab at it. First act, as a young woman, she wants to have it all. But mostly she wants this career in Silicon Valley. She's driven possibly by her dad. But her friend wants to, at first is on board, but then later sort of changes her mind, wants to have a life and go to Europe. And I don't know, maybe she meets a guy or whatever. But she grows up later and falls in love with a guy, I think at prom. And then doesn't pursue her dreams of Silicon Valley or whatever, ends up writing a book, and then is trying to sort out who she is, I guess. It's not very funny, but it's lighter than the other two and a little less pretentious. So there's that. Yeah, a girl raised in Silicon Valley in the shadow of Steve Jobs' successful return to Apple and his huge influence on her imagination, her aspirations, and relationships. How did Steve Jobs... I don't understand that. How would Steve Jobs have influence on your relationships? I guess because you want to date Steve Jobs, but you can't? Okay. So, Everything to Me Sounds very narcissistic title too, doesn't it? At least it doesn't have a bunch of critic quotes. Plainclothes and Peter Hooja's Day. Wow. Which one of these is on the bottom? I guess I'm going to put Plainclothes on the bottom. I really don't want to see guys in a men's stall. Just the images made me think of like being in one of those bathrooms, which they smell gross sometimes. So no, I don't want that sort of thought. Peter Hooja's Day. I mean, at least it could be interesting, the 70s aspect for me, and to kind of hear them talk about the people of that era. Again, I think it looks boring. I think all these movies kind of look boring. I guess at the top would be this one, only because it's a little lighter than the other two. It's not beating me over the head with critics and trying to convince me it's a good movie. It's just sort of being what it is. I don't think it would be very good. I don't think it'll be very funny. They all look kind of tedious, if you ask me. If these movies were 15 minutes long, then maybe. That's really, sometimes they get an idea and they make a full-length movie, but really it's a 10 to 15 minute idea. So a lot of these feel that. Like if you cut these movies down to maybe 15 minutes or 10 or even 5, they probably would be really interesting. And sometimes that's what filmmakers do, right? They do a short film and then they say, oh, this came out so great, let's do a feature length. But then they just end up stretching out the concept for 90 minutes instead of adding new stuff. But yeah, all these movies are a little too pretentious for my taste, but maybe your tastes are different. And that's it for me, Tony D and Little Joan. Check us out on the green site, the orange site, and the black site for other videos. I will be in Hamilton, New Jersey tomorrow, Juniper Village, 11 a.m. for the residents and their families for my talk on how to hunt the Jersey Devil. Again, you have to be a resident or family, or you have to have special permission to be there. Next day, Thursday, I'll be in Taunton Run, West Berlin. Same deal applies. Friday, I'll be at Dragon Shops for the night market, 7 to 11. That's open to the public. Saturday, I'll be in Williamstown at the Pfeiffer Community Center, 1 p.m. That is open to the public for the talk on how to hunt the Jersey Devil. I may do it at the Dragon Shops as well. They haven't scheduled me yet. And then after that, on Sunday, I'll be at JEVS in Collingswood for the special needs crew, 1 p.m. And again, residents and family, but if you get permission, I guess you can go. So that's it. Lots of stuff going on this week. Hope to see you there. We'll see you tomorrow.